have now seen Graham Potter's Chelsea. It was a 1-1 draw in the Champions League, so not exactly the best case study to put it as. I haven't played a Premier League game. They haven't really played a game where we've able to see the true Graham Potter's Chelsea in a sense. We have seen just a little bit of maybe a teaser, maybe a little bit of a trailer for what we will come to expect from Graham Potter's Chelsea. But it was a 1-1 draw at home to Salzburg. Now, they kind of played in a very similar way in which we all thought they were going to play, in a sense. With Potter, you expect a couple of things tactically. I spoke a lot about Potter's soft skills and his intricacies last episode, so go back and watch it. Go back and watch that if you're interested in that. I'm going to speak purely tactically today. When you look at Potter's system, actually, should we start with Potter? Yeah, let's start with Potter, then go back to Tuchel, then look at what Potter did. So with Potter, is obviously tactically very fluid. We've seen that with his Brighton team. They can play in like a 3-3-1. In a sense, they can play in a 3-3-1. They can play in a 3-5-2, 3-4-2-1, even a 4 at the back system at times. So this tactical fluidity is very good considering the fluid nature of Chelsea's players. Of course, you have Cucurella, who can play anywhere on the left. Reece James can play anywhere on the right. Chilwell, who can do a lot of roles. Azpilicueta can do quite a few roles. Mount can play out wide through the middle. Sterling can play out wide through the middle. Havertz, false nine through the middle. So Chelsea don't really have a lot of, positional structure in a sense. They are very fluid in terms of the positions that most of those players can play. Now, the reason why this is important is that because under Tuchel was trying to play the same way. And there wasn't really a lot of imagination in the way that he played. It was very, maybe not imagination, because Potter's game isn't exactly groundbreaking. It's very good. It's a very solid system that has been tweaked to be very good. But with Tuchel, I think the best way to describe it is to just show it. So let's bring up the average positions from Tuchel's Chelsea against Southampton. Now, what you have here is a very disconnected team. And that is the worst thing that you could do, in a sense, especially for Chelsea, because Chelsea, when they were really good in those Champions League winning years, when they were really good, they were a connected team. You could tell. Everything from the midfield third to the attacking third to the defensive third, they played as a team, they played as a unit, and that's what got them out over the line, especially in the Champions League, but also got them to fourth place, got them to an FA Cup final, got them to these cup finals. Now, what you have with this team is it kind of set up like a 4-3-3 almost, but not really, and that's the point. That's the problem, because if you take the back four of Azpilicueta, Thiago Silva, Koulibaly, and Cucurella, it's positioned as a back four, which is fine. And then you have the two slightly ahead of them, Jorginho and Ruben Loftus-Cheek, number 5 and number 12. Now, right now, there's no real problem here. Is it good? I wouldn't say it's good, but there's no real problem here. I don't think the way where Loftus-Cheek is positioned in terms of playing that slightly deeper double pivot is good. I think he can play in a double pivot, just in a more advanced area. Although nothing to be majorly concerned on so far. However, having Hakim Ziyech be this deep is not good, because he doesn't have the tenacity and he doesn't have the engine to run and to kind of piss off opponents to the extent that he needs to play in a deeper position, especially as a winger. When you have the opposite side of Mount, Havertz kind of playing in the same position, and then Sterling playing up front, almost isolated, you get such an incoherent, disconnected team that doesn't have any way of playing. And I think this is explained perfectly by the pass map. Now, this pass map just shows exactly what I'm saying perfectly, because Ziyech is playing so deep, Sterling is so isolated, Cucurella is kind of isolated in it to an extent, but also playing, almost overloading that left-hand side with Mount and Havertz, but Sterling is completely isolated. Ziyech is playing so deep that he can't influence the game at all. can't influence the game at all because he's playing so deep. So the crosses into the box won't work, the cutbacks won't work, the shots aren't going to get there because he's playing so deep. He's not going to have any influence in the final third. So when you have this kind of disconnected system, it creates the need for individual brilliance is major. And you have Mount, who has had a poor start to the season, Havertz, who's had a poor start to the season, Ziyech, who's had a poor start to the season. The only really real person you can count on for some individual brilliance is Raheem Sterling, especially playing of who played in this team. If we go back to the average positions just here, we can see it's very similar. We can see that it's very similar. So in terms of like the pass map and the average positions are very similar, which backs up my point of it being so disconnected. Chelsea's main modus operandi under Tuchel was connectiveness. The fact that they were really connected, the fact that everyone knew where everyone was, and they were having, I wouldn't say having fun, I wouldn't phrase it in that way, but they were fluid, very fluid. Despite being so structured and so disciplined, they were fluid in attack, and they were scoring goals, and they were really strong. All over the pitch, I was strong. This doesn't show any strength. This shows feeble. This shows weakness. And you can see the gap between Cucurella and Koulibaly is massive. It's huge. How does that make sense unless you're playing in a 3 at the back? And if Koulibaly is instructed to push over to the left-hand side, he's not doing it. If Cucurella is advancing too far up the pitch, he's doing that poorly. He shouldn't be that far up the pitch. If we look at that disconnected system, which lost Chelsea the game, right? Southampton were too good. Chelsea had a far more possession, but just couldn't do anything because they were all the possession was Thiago Silva to Azpilicueta to Koulibaly to Cucurella, nothing at all, no advance, no attacking movement at all. So you could have I think Frank Lampard did a fantastic interview when he was at Chelsea, and it was after Chelsea lost 2-0 to Leicester, a couple of games before he got sacked. I think it was this anyway, or maybe it was against Man City. And he was saying centre-back to left-back to defensive midfielder to centre-back to centre-back to centre-back to left-back to right-back to centre-back. That's how they were playing, and that's how Chelsea were playing again this year, or under Tuchel, especially this year. It wasn't good enough. Now, I said this last episode, I don't think Tuchel should have been sacked. I think even give him the benefit of the doubt to fix these issues. But it's just highlighting the problems that Chelsea had tactically under Tuchel this season. If I compare it to Graham Potter. Now, Graham Potter's Chelsea, they lined up in a 4-2-3-1, but really it played as a traditional 3-4-3, 3-4-3, 3-5-2, etc. Forgot, I can't speak. So, if we bring up the average positions from this game. This is a game against Salzburg. Now, much more structured, we can see. There is a clear structure here. You have the back three, back four, but it lined up as a back three, as you can see, with Cucurella, Silva, Azpilicueta. Now, what you have is you have a left-footed centre-back playing on the left, a right-footed centre-back playing on the right, and you have the leader playing in the middle. That dynamic in itself, for me, works like that. You had Reece James bombing on. You can see number 24 bombing on, being pretty much the outlet for Chelsea on that side. And then you have Mount playing in that half space, creating that triangle. Bang, straight away. There's a way to attack here. There is a way to attack. Whereas if you compare it here, where's Chelsea going? What are they doing? Here, this is of course Tuchel's heat map against Southampton. Nothing here. No way of attacking for Chelsea. Here, much cohesive way of playing. Then you have Jorginho playing as that pivot in midfield. Kovacic playing a little bit advanced alongside Mount in a sense. And then you have Havertz and Aubameyang playing as kind of two strikers with Sterling playing a little bit further up. This is a very symmetrical formation. Really, I know it's not, but you have Reece James kind of bombing on alongside Sterling. You have Mount and Kovacic playing as two number 8s. Jorginho is the holding, as a holding midfielder, and then Havertz and Sterling playing. Oh no, Havertz and Aubameyang, playing as the two central link-up players. A lot more structured, a lot more coherent, a lot more together, a lot more cohesive. Straight away. Look at the pass map, you can see it. This is just night and day difference. Night and day difference. Because you have the outlet balls out wide to Reece and Mount. You have the outlet balls out wide to Sterling. Kovacic can act as that link man slightly further up, whilst also being able to drop deep and provide some balance. And then you have Aubameyang and Havertz up front who can create something out of nothing because there's two of them. Instead of there being one of them, there's two of them. So you can lump the ball up to Aubameyang, you can play it down to Havertz, instead of lumping the ball up to Sterling and him having fuck all to do. When you have it here, a lot more things can happen because there's two people, in a sense. I feel like that can't be overlooked. So with Chelsea and with the way that they've been playing, night and day difference in terms of, I know it's only one game, take it with a pinch of salt, of course, but I just feel like it's a very promising sign for Chelsea and for Potter's kind of, I don't know how to explain this, but like for Potter's longevity, in a sense, this is very good. This is a very good start, a very solid start for Chelsea. Just not just a solid kind of no nonsense. Like it's kind of weird because it's you can see the improvement as I keeping this pass map up here because it's quite aesthetically pleasing to look at it, in fairness, because it's just so symmetrical, so clean, so structured, knows exactly what's going on. Whereas this is fucking jumbled mess. This is a jumbled mess. That's aesthetically pleasing. That's fucking shit. That's great. Shit. Great. Shit. Great. Apologies for audio listeners. Much more of a visual episode, this one. I apologise. But hey, just watch it on Spotify or watch it on YouTube. Not hard. Yeah, like when you have this kind of it's almost a 3-3-4 in a sense. It almost is a 3-3-4 because while it's not directly symmetrical in terms of Havertz, Kovacic and Mount aren't exactly parallel. Sterling and James aren't exactly parallel. The way of playing is very similar. We saw under Brighton, the likes of Solly March, Leandro Trossard, Tariq Lamptey, these guys have very promising, have kind of turned their careers around because they were playing as fullbacks. But playing as fullbacks, you're basically playing as wingers, in a sense. That's what we're seeing here. That's what we're seeing here with James and Sterling. I know Sterling wasn't playing as a fullback, but with Reece James, you kind of understand what that means. Expect to see kind of a 3-5-2, being lined up for by Chelsea in the coming games, because I feel like this is the system that Potter's going to go with. He obviously has a long time to get that structure and that system kind of coherent and solid, because obviously postponement this week, international break the coming week, and then of course Chelsea play again in not this week and the next weekend. So yeah, very promising start for Graham Potter's Chelsea, as that was just a quick tactical analysis on what they were able to do. I feel like that's a good place to kind of summarise it. And maybe, yeah, I feel like that's a good place to be for Chelsea and a good place to be for Graham Potter. Because the worst thing that Graham Potter could have done is to play the exact same way Tuchel did, or for Chelsea to not have a style of play at all. Granted, Chelsea didn't win. Granted, they probably should have won. And the way that they played probably wasn't the best. But in terms of the structure and the foundations that were set, very good. Very good. So massive tick for me for Graham Potter's first game. Massive tick. It was tactically so much better than Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea over the past weeks. And yeah, massive tick for me. Massive tick, because what Potter showed in his one game so far is that he has this Chelsea team playing more fluid football. With Tuchel, it was very stagnant. Very centre-back to left-back to right-back to centre-back. We had Sterling up front, isolated. Mount wasn't getting into the game. Reece James wasn't getting into the game. Whereas under Potter, he's getting the best players in the best positions. Reece James was playing a lot higher up the pitch. Sterling was playing a lot higher up the pitch. He had Aubameyang and Havertz kind of connecting and playing as kind of like a 1-2 punch up front. It was very pleasing to see, very good to see. And while they didn't get the result that they wanted, it was still a very promising start and a massive tick for Graham Potter's first game in charge, and it will only get better from here, right? You'd expect it to only get better once the players start to understand the system more. It'll only get better from here, no doubt. So massive tick for me for Graham Potter's first game as Chelsea boss.